listeners. Welcome back to Off Over 50 and Fired, Now What with Linda
and Shelley.
So in our last episode, we showcased stories from our listeners on their experiences of being restructured and leaving their jobs.
Yes, but before we begin, we want to give our wine selection for the evening. It's a Kudos, a Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley in Oregon.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So in this episode, before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of networking, which is going to be our series that's coming up, we thought we would reach out to our listener network and find out where they are now and talk a little bit about what's happened to Shelley and I since we've started this podcast. So, Shelley, do you remember where you were and how you were feeling over 6 months ago?
Oh, yeah, Lynn. You know, at first it was more I want the same position, I want the same salary, I want the same benefits, same location, same old, right? You know, and it was just really the same shit, different day. But I actually finally took a step back and started to think about things differently.
Right, so we really did take the advice of both of our listeners who were on our podcast previously, Susie and Betsy, and really looked at finding out what really works for us. What do we really want? Like taking that step back that you talked about and assessing what we really wanted. And what we found out is that we actually found new ideas and new opportunities to pursue that we never really thought of before. As you were saying, we kind of left the gate, like charging out there looking for the same thing, but taking that advice about stepping back, looking at our objectives, what we really want out of our lives, we realized maybe it's not the same that we want. And so for you, Shelley, what was it?
Well, you know, I thought, you know, like I said, I wanted the same old. And when I realized that I needed to have a little bit more time for myself, I liked the flexibility and everything. I thought, you know what, maybe I can do some consulting. You know, consulting gives you more flexibility, right? I've got my own family situations and I have to, take care of and be mindful of. So I really like the idea of pursuing consulting, giving me that flexibility. As I said, there's no stress. You can make your own hours. And it also just gives you the opportunity to take more time for yourself and your family and friends.
Yeah, and I found something similar. So the one thing that I felt is I didn't really have enough time to spend with my friends and family and even just in my community and to really, give back. I did a little bit of volunteer, but what I found is that I really did want to do more in my community and give back some of the skill sets that I have to help in different areas. So I did find a couple of organizations actually to work and help in, and that really helped me hone in my skills, keep them fresh, but also give me a sense that
sense of community.
Yeah, absolutely, of community and spending more time with my family, especially as, my daughter's getting older now, and she's going to be going off to college soon. So it was really nice to have that time to reconnect and really build our relationship.
Yeah, and it just gave you a chance to say, you know what, I'm going to use this stuff I've learned in the corporate world and bring it to life someplace else that's a little bit more rewarding, right?
And then I also found, just by sort of, my networking with past colleagues, is that I got put onto a project like you, doing some project work, which allowed for more flexibility, doing something that I hadn't done in about 10 years, and finding that, you know what, I really like this area. I'm more passionate about this area than I am that what I previously left, and maybe this is something I want to pursue and do a little bit more. So it gave me a whole different outlook about what potential opportunities I should be pursuing.
Yep, and I think some of the other stuff, Lynn, that we talked about earlier was around the whole financial component, right? How do we think about that? Where do we really need to be? I mean, we're a little bit later on in our careers, me more so than you, since I am older, but it's like, how do you think about your financial situation, and how do I potentially think about the trade-offs in terms of, do I really need to make that same amount of salary if I'm willing to maybe not have to work as many hours or whatever it happens to be? So I think, we did our due diligence in this area, and maybe you want to describe that a little bit more.
So I think it starts with understanding, your financial future and what you need and what you're sort of looking after. So we had always talked about, as a family, that I didn't want to work into perpetuity, that I
You
did
didn't want to
want
be 92?
No, I didn't want to be 92 when I retired.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it a little bit earlier, so, but I wasn't sure, do I have to kind of keep this pace that I'm doing? And because we both had good financial plans and good financial advisors.
Thanks to you, Linda.
We actually realized that we could be a little bit more flexible in the next opportunity, that we didn't have to have the same level of, salary and position to kind of get where we wanted to go from a retirement perspective, or, how we wanted to see our more senior years.
Yeah. So we were a little bit more financially secure than we really thought we were.
Exactly. And it was great news sitting down. And that's the great thing about when you go through these life changes, as we said, you should sit down, go through your financials. If you have an advisor, go with them, find out what really are the options. Where are you from a financial security perspective, and what can you do? And do you have a little bit more give and take in what you can pursue?
True. And then there's also that whole thing around, being prepared, right? What we always said, which we didn't realize, in the beginning when we, heard all that news about us being restructured and stuff was, you got to always be ready. It's like, a continuous ready, because you never know when the other shoe is going to drop and there's going to be a restructure or something's going to happen. And I thought what was really cool was where we heard from some younger folks, right?
Yes, we did. So some of our listeners who are in their 30s and 40s actually told us that it really resonated, this whole idea of being prepared, and that it's not just when you're over 50 that thinking about, do I really need to think about this job for 10 or 15 years? No, this might be a short term, and I might need to be ready to move on to a new opportunity if I'm not getting it from where I am today.
Yeah. Be prepared, and always use your current role as a stepping stone, and just don't feel like the way we did, where we were shell shocked.
Exactly. So the other thing is about staying connected with your network, and one of the things that helped from us, making sure that you're helping others along the way, strengthening those connections. We made actually new ones along with strengthening ones that we actually had. And as we're going through and sort of contacting people and reconnecting, we try to help them as much as possible with, new connections or new opportunities.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's important for us to think about, that was the whole reason why we started the podcast, right? Was to help others, help ourselves, and help others along in this journey. And that's why we're going to spend so much time on the whole networking and staying connected. We're going to have a whole series based on that, just because of its importance.
Right. So just to kind of wrap up a little bit, Shelley, how would you describe how you feel now versus then?
Linda, it's like night and day. In the beginning, to me, it was utter devastation. I was really, really sad and felt wounded and useless. I just was at a real low. But geez, over time, and as we learned and you find out what's really important to you and you take that step back, it's definitely night and day. I feel like, a whole new world has been opened up to me.
Right. And it's interesting because back then I was so focused on, doing more of the same. And then realizing that I actually was severely stressed, even while I was working, and I really wasn't enjoying myself as much. And now I feel so much less stressed. Everyone tells me that
you look great.
I look so much better. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing and what I'm doing in the different interests that I'm pursuing. And whether it be a project or be volunteer work or whatever it is, I'm really enjoying my life so much more.
It's more fulfilling, right?
Absolutely. And it also allowed us to explore. It gave us this ability to go out and look at these different options, which before I never would have been able to do that, because it would have been, 12 hours a day onto the train, into work, conference calls, whatever. And this really allowed us to really look at what we could potentially be doing and what could be different in our lives.
So Linda, you know what? I think we're kind of like the Lewis and Clark, on this journey, right? We're trying to find the right work-life balance that's really going to make us happy.
And I think it's important what you just said. It's a journey, right? They didn't find the West Coast on day one, did they?
No, it took them many, 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 many months and years or whatever it was. But yes, I think,
right.
Exploration is key, and it's been it's been exciting.
It has
Challenging
been.
and exciting.
So what we wanted to do is actually share 2 stories from our listeners, Daisy H. and one of our returning listeners, Janet G. So why don't you take us through the first story on Daisy H,
Sure.
Shelley?
I can do that. Daisy H says, "Hi, Linda and Shelley. How are you guys doing? I hope all is well. Glad to see you're still doing the podcast. It's been good to listen to. 1 month in, since the layoff for me, I've been half looking, half enjoying my time off, doing a lot of volunteering for the Botanic Gardens."
And that's something that I would love to do. I love being outdoors and I love gardening.
Yes, good for you, Linda.
Is that something you would do, Shelley?
Not really, but I'm learning. If I could find a paying position there, that's what I would do. That has been really cool. I've also started guitar lessons. Not ready to go on tour yet, but it's been fun. And I've been definitely going to the gym more, which is really cool because we always talked about the fact, right?
We did, about like taking care of yourself and taking time out and all of that.
Yep.
So Daisy H goes on, all in all, I've been keeping pretty busy. I think that's the key. Keep active and busy, even if you know you don't want to go back to a full-time career or job. And Shelley and I have been saying that I think the important thing is to continue to be active, keeping your skills up and just getting out there and making sure that you're visible and you're meeting with people. Not to be a...
Shut-in.
That's right.
No more shut-ins. You can't be
shut-in.
Shelley shut-in. Yep. And then Daisy talks about the fact that, her and I, we actually are past colleagues, and we talked about she's, connected with someone that I had suggested and realized that they actually have an office right in her hometown, which is pretty cool. And there might actually be an opportunity there.
So she hopes to stay in touch, and cheers, she says. On to our next story, which is from Janet G., who is one of our listeners we featured actually in our last episode on pink slips and goodbyes. And she says, "Hello, Shelley and Linda. First, I want to thank you for posting my story in the last episode. It meant a lot to me that people know that it's okay to feel the emotions that was associated with being let go from a company who I thought I would spend the next 10 or 15 years working for." And I had the same attitude. I thought I was going to be also retiring, going out of the pasture.
Going out in a box.
That's right, in a box with my
Your last
company.
breath.
With my last breath. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that that's not what happened, actually. I had actually had this wonderful opportunity to take time out and to actually rethink what I wanted to do, which is wonderful. And so Janet goes on, "After I received the phone call while I was on vacation notifying me that my position was being terminated after 15 years of service and dedication, I decided to take some time to take care of me."
Yeah, and that's really friggin' important, right? Because the company's not going to do it for you. You need to do it.
That's right. You absolutely have to take care of yourself and make sure you're making decisions based on what's best for you. So Janet goes on, "I just had a knee replacement in April that I kept holding off because I was working. My younger son has decided to join the U.S. Army Reserves. Very patriotic. We plan on going to his graduation in June, scheduled to be held in South Carolina. My eldest son will soon be part of the fire department unit. Another exciting graduation to attend."
Yeah, and how wonderful. Again, it's a lot of good stuff that's happening for Janet, and it's all about family and friends and taking care of herself and not just the work situation.
So Janet continues, "Most of all, I would like to share with the audience that my husband of 33 plus years has been battling Parkinson's disease since 2008. I kept it a secret for a very long time at work. If there is one thing I've learned is that you need to keep your personal issues to yourself. Unfortunately, people have a tendency of judging you on your personal life. My husband is now retired and we are building a new life for us. Both of our children have moved out. We have planned a trip to Costa Rica at the end of the year. As for me, I have decided to obtain my mindfulness meditation teacher certification. My goals are to teach individuals the skills needed to get out of their daily autopilot routines and be one with your mindful self. These skills will help in very stressful situations such as losing a job, dealing with financial issues, mindless eating due to stress, or dealing with anger and frustration. God knows it helped me. It's something that I've always wanted to do, but was too preoccupied at work to fully embrace it."
Yeah, and to Janet's point around that